Hey there, my name is Benjamin Krause, and we're here for another edition of, I'm not sure what this show's called. We're going to talk about VR&E and GI Bill and whether or not veterans who are wanting to use those benefits to attend Liberty University, whether it's Liberty University or Liberty University Online, whether they can do that. This actually came up. I had an issue where I needed to look into this, and there's a lot of confusion out there, especially from I think within VR&E in particular, but also probably VA, about whether veterans can still in fact use their GI Bill or Veteran Readiness and Employment Benefits to attend Liberty University. So today we're going to talk about that. Now, give me a quick second because I need to tell people that we are live in the group. And let me just double check. I have to reset this and see where they're at. If you're watching this and you happen to be, there we are. If you happen to be on Facebook, definitely feel free to check in. Same thing with YouTube, same thing with LinkedIn. So ask comments. I cannot see comments on LinkedIn. Just so you know, you'll have to do it from either YouTube or Facebook, and then it'll show up. I'm going to put something here in the thread so that people can see it, and otherwise we will go from there. So just give me a quick second. So we're going to add this to hang on a second, we are live. Ask comment questions after clicking this link. Okay, so I don't know if I've actually done a let's see here, this should work. Link. Nope. Wow, that's fun. All right. So we are live and something is not working, but that's okay. Give me a second. NVRE Facebook group. All right. So that should be rocking and rolling. And then next, I'm going to put a hopefully a thing. Click here. Boom, boom, boom. All right. So hopefully that's ready to go. Okay, so we're going to be talking about this, and I know that hopefully people tune in. We'll see. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. So anyway, we're going to be talking about this. I hope that, let's see here. All right. So we have the tag. Okay. So if you're getting the tag, you're getting it because you're in the group. And if you don't want to get the tag, if you happen to be watching this, it's okay to leave the group. It's just the only tool that we have right now. So if there was another tool, then I would use it. But unfortunately, that's just the way it is. So if you are getting this and you're in the VR&E group, you're getting it because you're in the group. And so we're letting everybody know that we are live. If you happen to have any questions about VR&E, definitely let us know. And then otherwise, let's see here. So we are going to... give me a second. All right. Let's see. Reset. Okay. So if you're getting this and you have any questions, definitely let me know. Today we're going to be talking about Liberty University. And I happen to need to do a little bit of research for a issue that came up. And I think, hey, we should share that because Liberty University is one of the more popular universities that veterans like to attend, whether they are a disabled veteran or whether they are anyone else. And so I wanted to give this information because it sounds like the Department of Veterans Affairs, and in particular, Veteran Readiness and Employment, may not be giving complete information to veterans about this university. And so it is one of the most popular universities, or has been for many years, when it comes to veterans trying to get approved for training to become pilots. amongst other things. Liberty University in its Virginia campus, I believe it is in Leesburg or something like that. It's they have a brick and mortar, but they also have a campus I think it's called Liberty University Online, and a lot of veterans use that, and a lot of veterans use that for pilot training in particular. And so, what we're going to be talking about here is going to relate to pilot training and information that I received back from Liberty University, in part because it sounds like some veteran readiness and employment or vocational rehabilitation counselors within VR&E. Let's see here. What is the question? Okay, if you happen to have any questions, definitely comment in the below, either on YouTube or Facebook. I'll see it on Facebook or YouTube, and if you comment in LinkedIn, I'll look and I'll try to do my best to comment there later, but I cannot see that in real time, just so you're aware. So anyway, I hope that helps, and otherwise we're gonna just kick it off. So pilot training. So everyone knows that you could use the GI Bill for pilot training, and I'm a little bit sick, so I'm going to probably sound a little bit nasally, but I wanted to get this information out while it's still current and relevant for a lot of people. So basically, a lot of veterans use either the GI Bill or Veteran Readiness and Employment to support their objective of becoming a commercial pilot. I think most people are aware at this point that it tends to be easier to use the GI Bill for that purpose than veteran readiness and employment. There's a lot of hurdles that VR&E will tend to put in front of veterans who are aspiring pilots, good, bad, or otherwise. Sometimes it's for the right reasons, and sometimes it's for the wrong reasons. It really just depends on the unique situation and things like that. So anyway, when it comes to the types of training, you will see either 4-year programs, which is similar to what they have at Liberty University, where you go from 0 to 60, so to speak, at the university. You complete a bachelor's degree. I think in they call it the BS Aviation program, the aviation program. So it's a aviation degree, and part of that degree includes flight training, so that the veteran can become a commercial pilot. So they get their licensure after they graduate, or at around that time, and go on to become a pilot. It's a great time to be a pilot for a lot of folks, because if this is interesting to you, there is a pilot shortage. So in theory, appropriate training should lend itself to a great career later in life that you enjoy, and so on and so forth. So it's a good opportunity, but it's not for everybody. And depending on your stage in training, you may or may not be able to get approved for this. So usually where veterans run into the hurdle is they will want to become a pilot. And when it comes to VR&E, they'll go in perhaps without any kind of pilot training at all, including maybe private pilot's license, and they'll run into snags where VRE will tell them, no, we don't. We only pay for the commercial part, not the private part. And apparently the backstory or history there has to do with a trend maybe back in the Vietnam era or something like that, where a lot of veterans wanted to become pilots and VA decided not to pay for it. So they made it harder to get. So you weren't able to get your private pilot's license anyway, or at least it would be more difficult to attain. Today, if you're looking at getting into VR&E, one of the avenues for that is to get into a school like Liberty University, and to get your undergrad, and also become licensed or work toward licensure to become a commercial pilot, which again is a great career. There is a shortage of pilots all over the world, and veterans would probably make great candidates to become awesome commercial pilots, and it does fit with everything else that we've ever seen. So, this seems like a good thing. Well, enter Liberty University. Liberty University has been training pilots, aspiring pilots and veterans, in its brick and mortar university in Virginia, as well as nationwide through its online program that has partnerships with, I believe that the term is flight-based courses. Let me look. Okay, flight training affiliates. So flight training affiliates. And so apparently it has come under fire over the past, I want to say 1 to 2 years, where veterans were experiencing difficulty transferring and having other challenges related to this online training, where if they went from one version of it to another version of it, then there would be problems, and it wasn't as seamless as some veterans had hoped. So there were problems and complaints that went into the Department of Veterans Affairs, and the VA then limited the ability of veterans to go to Liberty University and use their benefits. And so we wanted to look into, who this actually affects, this kind of limitation. Now, I noticed in doing my own investigation on this that some of the articles that had been written about it are no longer easily locatable in a Google search, which I found to be interesting. So normally, if you were looking for this type of thing in a Google search, it would come up rather quickly. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone's going to have my experience if they try to replicate my own research on this. But what it does mean is that, at least when I did it, I couldn't find the articles. And so it would suggest that at least somebody had done what's called negative SEO on those articles so that they don't show up. Now, negative SEO is a method of, in my opinion, unlawfully interfering with the search engine optimization of articles or entire websites that affects or adversely affects the target website's search engine rankings. Now, this has happened to, I believe, my website and others. I think it's an unlawful tortious interference with a business practice, and I think it's nefarious. But I don't know who would have done that or if it was done. It seems like that maybe might have been happening. I don't know. But the articles are difficult to find at this point in time if you do try to find it. Now, I'm not saying who did or didn't do that, but it does seem kind of interesting. I've had it happen to me where, certain bad actors were linking to certain articles that I have written on my website from certain Panamanian URLs that don't exist, but they happen to show up in the rankings and other things like ghost websites and whatnot. So it does happen. I don't know who does it. I can't say here, but I just had a hard time finding anything about Liberty in this context, which made me reach out to them to find out more. And so they were real gracious on the phone. It was easy to figure out after a little patience, but they eventually answered my questions, and then I followed up with an email to verify. But essentially, I'm going to read to you what they responded with. So basically, I asked them about the GI Bill and veteran readiness and employment and becoming a pilot at Liberty University in their aviation program. And I reported that, what I've been told, which is that Liberty is no longer eligible for veterans through the GI Bill or VR&E if they want to become a pilot. And I wanted to see whether that's accurate or not. And it just was, an interesting thing. And so I wanted to point out, what the observation is. And so in this context, the good news, and this is really good news, and I'm hoping to provide clarification for many of you out there, is that VR&D is able to facilitate, or they should be able to facilitate anyway, veterans who are attending as well as a GI Bill. But if you're and that's pretty much with, as I understand it, with any program. However, the caveat being for pilot training, what I was told is that you have to attend the brick and mortar. And so the brick and mortar is, or not so much brick and mortar, you can also be online, but you have to attend and use one of the flight training affiliates in the state. And so apparently Liberty has their own program on site where they don't need an affiliate. They have their own thing at the brick and mortar university. But if you're in the online program, you still would need to use a flight training affiliate. Now, the limitation, because of what happened with the GI Bill and this kind of ongoing investigation, now apparently the investigation is done by the Virginia State Approving Agency, and that's I believe through the state Department of Veterans Affairs, not the federal, and then in coordination with the federal Department of Veterans Affairs. So that's kind of what happened. And so they had suspended the use of VA benefits pending further review and audit. And now it has not been necessarily fully restored, but there are some limitations. And what I was told, I'm just going to kind of read it right off here so that there's limited confusion. All courses that are not flight-based remain approved for VA funding. However, flight-based courses may only be funded when one of our flight training affiliates in the state of Virginia is used to facilitate training. And then the person responding continued, the above information is applicable to all VA benefits, including VR&E. The VR&E program specifically does maintain some flexibility to approve funding for courses outside of certain Department of Veterans Affairs guidelines. Any exceptions to the policy updates mentioned above would have to be approved by your VR&E counselor. Well, that's great news. And so that basically means that veterans should be in the clear, right, to use this in many situations. Now, when it comes to pilot training, you're going to be limited to only the flight training in Virginia and maybe some other exceptions, but it's going to be definitely ratcheted down. So that's okay. And anyway, so that was the gist of what I wanted to talk about today. I'm a little sick, so I didn't really plan on covering anything that is in great depth. But if you happen to have a question about this or anything else, feel free to put a comment here real quick. I'll take a look and do my best to give you an answer. And otherwise, I'm going to wrap up. Just again, I'm not feeling terribly well. I can't breathe very easily, so that's always a bummer when you're trying to talk. It makes it rather difficult. So one veteran asks, if I wanted to change my career goal while using Chapter 31, can I make a change like that? And so the answer there is yes. You can put in a request if that's what you want to do. The regulation that you want to look at is 38 CFR 21.94. Again, 38 CFR 21.94. And you will want to go onto the Knowledge Exchange, which you can get to by typing in to Google or somewhere else, KNOWVA, do a search, and it should come up. This has the internal policies that VA follows that are published, and you can read through change requests. So that would be something like plan change requests or something within what's called the M28C manual. And there you can find more about how to request a change to your plan. I help, veterans with that quite a bit in our law practice, and it's something that, comes up from time to time. So one thing I forgot, I didn't introduce myself here, and I should have. So my name is Ben Krause. I'm a VA accredited attorney. We help veterans quite a bit with VR&E benefits when they are wrongly denied entitlement, and we help them become doctors and lawyers and executives and other things. Our objective is to basically make as many veterans into leaders as possible and to help them get VA to pay for it. So that's what we do at the firm. And veterans, if they happen to have questions or get denied, my contact is in the bottom here. You can go to the website and put in a request. But yeah, if you happen to get that and get denied, we do free case evals, and you want us to look at it, feel free to put in that request. You just got to go through the website or call. It's pretty easy to get me that way. That's about the best way anymore. So I do have a few questions, and I'll go through this in a bit. So one veteran asks, any suggestions on a disrespectful school VA point of contact representative, the one who puts in my info for authorization and pay? So, usually if somebody is disrespectful, if it's a chronic problem, then you may want to do something. If it's just somebody being a dink, like because they had a bad day, I would blow it off and not waste your time on it. Usually, if you dig in on that type of stuff, it'll eventually bite you in the backside anyway, especially if it's not really somebody that can really affect you. I would just let it go normally, because people have bad days, people have bad months, and sometimes I don't know. Anymore, now that I've gotten a bit older, I tend to blow that stuff off because it's just not worth your time. It just isn't, and it'll end up causing usually more problems than it's worth. There are certain nuances when I would probably do something, but, so what? Okay, somebody had a bad day, happens. But as far as, if it's a chronic issue, then I think, what you may want to do is put in a request or try to get assistance from the school. I don't think that the Department of Veterans Affairs would be the right mechanism for that usually. So I would probably go to the school dean or, figure out what chain of command that person is in and try to address it through a constructive criticism or comment card, and perhaps that can help. It probably won't be immediate. So if you're hoping to get like an immediate attaboy, then you probably won't get that. But anyway, that's my take there. So I usually just kind of blow off, if people are dinks, unless it's like really bad, and that's different. So, but anyway, it is what it is. So let's see here. What else? So we have Carlos G asks a question on the last live or two ago. You mentioned a list of best careers. Oh yeah, for VRE. Was that list done in a Facebook group or website? Just wondering. Okay, so I don't remember. I don't recall. I've built a list, and it is not published, the new one, that I've done some research on as far as like careers that a person can get approved through VR&E and get, there's a couple that are, like amazing, but you can only get them, through, you have to have a really high aptitude and the stars have to align. And there's, it's, I've been able to help people get these through an appeal, but it's, not easy. You have to be just really in the right place at the right time and have the right aptitude and stuff like that. But so I don't have a list handy, but I'm going to put it up. I do have it. It's just buried in my files. Let's see here. What do I need to know to get started retroactive? Okay, I've used 31 months of my GI Bill. So, well, the first step is you got to get into VR&E first of all. And the training has to be required essentially or necessary or something like that. So the prior training has to be relevant and needed to get your goal accomplished within VR&E after you're accepted. And generally in that context, retro could be satisfied, and then you might be able to get that benefit back. So, but it's not, I wouldn't say that, just because you have used the GI Bill, that in and of itself is not going to be a deciding factor for retro. You can get it replenished again under certain circumstances, but it's not always going to work that way. So food for thought. So it's got to be necessary to complete the goal that was approved by VR&E, and then you should put in the request if they don't process it automatically. And in that instance, I would put the request on the personal statement form that the VA uses, which is VA Form 21-4138, personal statement. Carlos G. Oh, sorry. So you're writing back. Okay, so then your question here is that you used 36. It's expired. So I don't have a good answer there. Next question. What that mean? Okay, so I'm guessing here what you mean is you've used up the GI Bill and it's expired. Therefore, you're not entitled to it anymore. So next question, can I get VR&E to cover or complete the training that I intended or some other kind of new objective toward a vocational goal? First, the qualifier here is, it's got to be training needed toward a vocational goal. You have to be found entitled to VR&E benefits. And if you happen to have a serious employment handicap, in that context, you would be able to get probably more than 22 months if that was needed. But again, each case is unique. I've done a number of appeals, and I can tell you after working on these for a long time as an attorney, as a VA accredited attorney, and having gone through VR&E myself, 10 years before I became an attorney, I can tell you that there's really no one case that is like any other case. Very unique, and they're all kind of, just very unique. So, anywho, so I hope that helps answer your question. So, for VR&E, Carlos, in your situation, you can get potentially more than 22 months if you're found entitled to it, if you meet certain criteria. So I hope that helps. But it's not a guaranteed. It's not like the GI Bill, you get 36 months, period. We all know this. It's not how VRE works. So it's got to be necessary toward that vocational goal and training, and that's how that goes. Next question. Let's see here. Okay, sorry. Michael asks. This is the retro. So Michael, you got to apply first, and then getting the retro may or may not. It just depends. So you got to be entitled to VRE first. It's not an automatic. Any suggestions on disrespectful? Okay, this one I talked about. Next is I wanted to go to law school. However, as I am an engineer, I was told I am not authorized for voc rehab. Okay, so there are situations and certain types of engineers where because of their niche, like let's say a civil engineer might be a good example, a person who has to be out in the field doing that type of work, that is rather physical. In that kind of context, I could see that there would be a situation where maybe their disabilities would be aggravated by that type of employment, and therefore training into a new vocational goal is necessary. Now, one thing you've stated here, which is a kind of a consistent problem with veterans, that we don't say it the right way, and VR&E will not properly help you develop this either frequently. So just so you're aware, so when you're approaching VR&E, you don't just say, I want law school, right? Because they're going to be like, no, we don't do that. What you say is, I believe that my disabilities are aggravated by my current employment, assuming that that's true, of course, don't lie about it. And then second, my vocational goal that I want to train toward is blank. So that can be, becoming a lawyer. It can be a professor. It can be, a lot of things. And then because if you get approved for that, it requires training, then obviously they will usually sponsor that training. And so here you don't want to just lead with, I want law school, because they'll deny you, because they're like, we don't do that. That's silly. Why would you just go to law school for no other reason? And so unfortunately, that's kind of how the shallow mindedness of a lot of VRCs. Obviously, when you say law school, you mean you want to be a lawyer, and they should flush that out. Frequently they don't. And so because you're not a vocational counselor, you don't know exactly, or a lawyer already, you don't necessarily know how to state this in a way that will force them to process it correctly. Instead, what they'll do is they'll process it incorrectly frequently. They won't develop out what you're talking about, and then they'll just say, well, we don't do the law school. That's dumb. You're a dummy. And that's just, how the program works. They won't help you that way. They're supposed to, but they won't. So, so that could be wrong. And again, if this is what I do for a living. So if you want, us to look it over, you can go request. We don't charge to do that. And we'll give you feedback about what's going on. So let's see here. All right. So Joe, is the Vet Tech program getting funded this year? I don't remember. You know what? It's worth looking into. Maybe if somebody else is watching this and they know the Vet Tech program. I know one of them was not going to be funded this year. I thought it was ending in 2023. So VRAP, maybe VRAP? I don't know. Anyway, I don't know the answer to this. Let's double. Actually, here I'll just search because it's easy. This is, I mean, just go to Google, man. Is VA vet tech funded 2024? Let's see what comes up. It appears that it is funded through July 31st of 2024. So there you go. Easy. Just go to Google, type in the question, boom, it'll pop up. So I hope that helps, Joe. Yeah, should be funded. And then next one, Michael. I've been working with VR counselor, and we have discussed retro. The course is taken Dualign. Okay. My current plan, I was told that I may not get some of the months. Well, that could happen if you're taking courses that were outside of the requirement, and then also if you failed any, something like that, or they were taking an unaccredited school. I could see that. Then also all months were used towards the same degree. Okay. So usually that would get approved, but there are nuances about why it may not. Also, like I tell every veteran that talks to me, don't just settle for like an associate's or bachelor's degree, especially in this like AI era where a lot of jobs are being outstripped, and you're going to have to develop proficiency using AI in a lot of different ways. So that means that I think there's a lot of calls out there where we're tens of millions of people across the world, not just in the U.S., are going to be laid off because of how AI is, doing things. And it's pretty remarkable. I've used AI quite a bit, and the reality is that it does eliminate jobs. There's no question. Now, does it create new jobs? Yeah, because people need to know how to use it. So, it doesn't just automatically do stuff. But I think that veterans, by and large, are really going to need to be ready for AI and get appropriately trained and set up for it. So I would encourage you. If you're watching this and you've stuck through it this long and you're like, I don't really want to be a pilot, but I kind of just bored and I'm watching this dude talk with a gray beard. Then, what I would say is definitely push for the most that you can get from the program, because the program's purposes includes maximizing your benefit, not minimizing it, meaning whenever you're in the VRC and you're talking to them initially, and if they try to tell you something like, we're only required to train you to entry-level training, well, that's not true. And if you think about it, it's absurd, because they're dealing with people with disabilities who are also veterans, right? And so you've been through the ringer already, and you're probably older with kids and everything else, and are dealing with disabilities. So entry-level work for like a college student without all that baggage is not appropriate for you. So, or frequently not. So anyway, it's a thing. It's a thing. So just be aware if you're watching this. So anyway, I was a bit more narrow today on the topic. So I don't know if that's going to be useful for a lot of people or not, but I'm sure, excuse me, it'll help some. And I found it very useful to know that Liberty still can help with training, and they can help with flight training even if you're in the online program, but you must do the flight training in Virginia. So that's the nuance. But the good news is, for the veterans that want to use that program for flight training, great. But there are also a lot of other flight schools around the country that are good. So I'd encourage you to look at other flight schools that are good, not just Liberty, if you happen to not be in the Virginia area and you want to get support for that particular goal. So anyway, if you happen to be tuning in right now, ask a question, and I'm definitely going to help you by providing an informational answer. So anything I tell you here is not to be construed as legal advice, because I am not your attorney and I have not looked at your file. So, but I am giving you information based on what I have seen and the cases I've worked on appeal and stuff like that. So I hope that helps. Oh, okay, cool. So Michael is, yeah, good. Working to get some IT certs before. No, don't do that. Well, okay. So I would complete the masters first if it were me, and then do the certs second. It's almost like trying to get my law license before I'm done with the underlying training. Here, what I've seen VR&E do is I've seen them try to push veterans in that kind of cheaper, faster direction first, and then when you're done with those things, they won't include the master's degree in the training. They'll kind of do a little bait and switch, so you think that you're getting it, but it's not written down. And veterans will sign it because we tend to not read, and they know that. I don't know why we don't. I'm guilty of that when I was going through, VR&E 2, where I had no idea what I agreed to. They just put it in front of me, boop, and I signed it, and then it's like, oh, crap. It's not what I thought. And so it happens to a lot of people. So don't rely on your VR counselor to accurately relay information to you when it comes to a contract. Treat them as an adversary in that context. I mean, still be professional, but assume that they're going to dupe you and then read it. Don't just sign it without reading it. Super important. That's important with life. Unless, of course, you're renewing your Apple contract, in which case it's like 30 pages long and you're bored. So, but for things like VRE, when it comes to your benefits, stuff like that, and I'm obviously kidding with Apple, but with anything, you want to read those things as best you can. And in this context, what I've seen VRCs get veterans in for the cheaper, shorter duration. And then when you're done with that cheaper, shorter training, then they pull a bait and switch, say that you're qualified for suitable employment, go get a job. And then they'll say, well, don't worry, if you can't get a job after, 6 months to 18 months looking, okay? So 6 to 18 months looking when you could have been like finishing training, then they'll let you back in. Oh, okay, sure. And it's harder to get back in. So just buyer beware if that's happening to you. But anyway, I hope that helps. And otherwise, I'm going to wrap this up. I don't think I see any other questions. And otherwise, God bless. Have a great weekend. And let's see here. I'll do a little sermon here. Dear Lord, thank you so much for all these veterans that are on this call. And we ask that you help more veterans become better leaders in America and help our country become stronger because of the leadership that only veterans can provide. Help us to use programs like the GI Bill and VR&E and help us to blow through some of these bureaucratic, this red tape that keeps us in these lower level jobs. Help us to get out there and to get into appropriate jobs at appropriate levels of leadership so that we can help steer our country out of the current melee that is definitely befalling, that everyone is apparently aware of. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, this applies to everybody. So more veteran leaders all across the board. That's what I'm fighting for. Anyway, dear Lord, thank you for this time. Amen. All right, folks. So go out there, be leaders, do well, do good, and don't take no for an answer when it comes to VR&E. Push back. We're here to get your back if you need it. And otherwise, God bless and have an outstanding upcoming weekend. Take care.